Hi guys, welcome back to Many Mistakes Ago podcast. So I know it's been 2 weeks. Let's give y'all a couple updates first before I get into today's podcast episode, which is raise your standards. Okay, so life updates. I am currently sitting in my new office. In my new apartment with my girlfriend Larissa. There is quite some things that we have to unpack. So my girlfriend actually has the lease at her place for another week. So we're still kind of moving around, kind of figuring out what goes where. And once we ultimately decide like what we're gonna keep and what we're gonna sell or donate, we'll go from there. We've been donating a lot. We've donated to a church, probably like 6 or 7 bags of clothing. We've donated to Goodwill a couple of times for items that like we couldn't exactly figure out. Oh no, you guys. I don't know if this is gonna work. Okay, I'm still recording. I'll get into this after. So we've donated to Goodwill, just like things that like don't really have use. Um, my girlfriend and I found a great family that we sold a washer and dryer to for like, I want to say the set. They're not a set, but like it was a washer and dryer that like they're two different brands, so it's not technically a set, but whatever. We found a family that like really needed it, and I'm so glad that it like went to somebody who needed it. And then she ended up giving her Xbox, her old Xbox, to the kid in a couple of games, and apparently he was asking for it. So I just thought that was so cute. My girlfriend, like, I told my girlfriend, I was like, honestly, like, I want to donate when we move and we, like, kind of like get rid of all of our stuff as much as possible because the thing about donating, like, it makes me happy to know that the stuff that we're getting rid of or the stuff that we don't need is going to somebody who is either A, going to use it, or B, actually really needs it. And I think I mean, I know she's the type of person who's very giving and like will literally like buy a homeless person a meal. But like, I guess my point is she was just so like flustered with the amount of stuff that we had to like figure out that she was like, I don't even care, I just want to throw shit out at this point. Like, kind of like if you're moving, like you're gonna have that mentality because it is exhausting, and I completely get it. But I know that when she like gave that Xbox to that kid, it must have made her feel so so great, and I know it did. So that's why I'm like, as much as we can, I want to donate. I know that everything isn't going to be, of use to people. But I did set aside, and I still have to go to the domestic violence shelter. That is like top priority because we have like 2 or 3 bags of like dishes. I literally have a mini crock pot that I've never used. It's still in the box. A couple of my girlfriend's things like toaster, whatever. Like we have stuff. My girlfriend and I also found unused deodorant, unused sprays, and like we're the type of people to like stock up on stuff. So I'm like, okay, you know what? Like, imagine like making someone's day because like they got deodorant because they couldn't afford it. Like, I was like, that is like my mentality. So I'm like, I'm really, I know that like talking about it makes me seem like, okay, girl, like, good for you, you donate. But it's just like, it feels good because amidst the craziness of my apartment and her apartment and getting rid of stuff and moving into this apartment, it's just like amongst all the craziness, we still were able to find time to separate stuff rather than just throwing it all away. And that's like what I want to get at. We are going to be selling some stuff, but I know that it's like going to be things that like we don't really need anymore, and it's also like not a necessity. Like I know one thing we're gonna sell is like a drawer organizer, and then my girlfriend and I are also, I've been selling her dive gear, so that kind of stuff is still gonna kind of stay true to selling versus donating, because like there's just certain things that like I don't really. I mean, I could donate it to Goodwill, but Goodwill is just going to turn around and make a profit. And the domestic violence shelter doesn't really need those things. Like, why would I donate dive gear when, like, somebody at the shelter probably doesn't even have that in their mind to go diving? Like, they're just trying to live. So, I'm trying to be practical about what goes where. But yeah, so I've been having that going on. I also bought a shredder and spent a good hour or so yesterday shredding my girlfriend's stuff and apparently her ex-girlfriend's stuff too. I caught her name on some of the envelopes and I was like, oops, we're just gonna throw that in the shredder because I don't need to know what's going on. I don't know if it's a bill, I don't know what it is, but she left it here, so it's none of my business. And then, of course, the last thing I must say is my computer. So, a little bit of an update. My girlfriend had bought me a monitor, like an external portable monitor, and I was like, oh, cool, like that would be so cool if I need it. I do love it, but I don't really know if I see a purpose for it. So I might consider selling it. I might consider keeping it just in case for now, in case I do need a portable monitor. But for right now, I don't have a purpose for it. But I am using it right now. As I say, I don't have a purpose for it. I'm using it right now in hopes that it helps my laptop. So, okay. I think I talked about it on my last episode, which was 2 weeks ago. And the reason why I didn't have an episode last week was not only because of the move, but also because I broke my laptop screen. And I'm so mad. I'm so pissed because um it's a touchscreen laptop. So every once in a while it'll actually like freeze and like you'll see like fingerprints as if I was touching the screen. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like I've had this laptop for I want to say about 3 years now. And I did go to a store to have it repaired. Of course, they don't have the screen in stock. So I'm waiting on a call. It's been like a week and a half, if not 2 weeks at this point. And I'm infuriated because I'm like, I need a working laptop. Like I vlog, I podcast, I still take classes for school so I can like be a full stack developer. Like that's what I'm going to school for. And I'm like, you've got to be kidding me. Like I can't do any of this with a screen that like freezes every couple of seconds. So I decided to plug in the portable monitor and see if that kind of hinders it from, I guess, like doing that. And it did it with the portable monitor plugged in. So that just made me realize like that's not gonna work. But I think it happens I think it happens less often than it does when I do it. So we'll see. Because I've also been control alt deleting like every 5 minutes. And like I said, I vlog, I podcast, so like I can't keep up with it if it's gonna keep doing this. So I finally decided to put the money down and get a new laptop. So, because of Labor Day and there being Labor Day deals, I went to Best Buy online, of course, which was my dumbass idea. I went to Best Buy and I had bought myself a MacBook Pro, right? Was it a Pro or was it an Air? I actually think it was an Air. I think I decided the Pro was too much money to fork out at once because I just moved. We like put money down on this apartment, and I also, my girlfriend and I are getting Remy trained. So it was just like not gonna be the time. Let me double check. I want to say it was the Air. Yes. So the Apple MacBook Air 13-inch laptop with the M3 chip. It has 8 gigs of memory, 256 SSD, or gigabytes of SSD, blah, blah, blah. And in the color Midnight. So I was like, okay, cool. Like, I just forked out $1,000 now on a laptop. Granted, this laptop, I'm not even kidding you when I say it's the HP Envy. I love it so much, but it is just so beaten up because I don't properly take care of my technology and I really need to. Like, the reason this cracked is because I had it on a table and I didn't have enough room for it on the table. And I went to go do something and I hit it and it just flung and then screamed straight to the floor. So that's how it essentially broke the screen. And oh God, I know that I'm going to be taking way better care of my laptops because I'm not trying to fork out $1,000 to $1,200 every 3 years on a laptop. Like, I don't want to keep doing that. But I just got impatient, so I bought a laptop. And if the case comes where they have the screen for my laptop, I think I'm still gonna get it repaired because that way I have a laptop for my work stuff, a laptop for school, like, and just I can like kind of separate it, or I could just, kind of go back and forth as I please. Maybe like certain things, like if I travel, I'll keep the MacBook at home and I'll, bring my HP Envy because it's already a couple years old. Whatever the case is, I decided that I'm still going to fork out the cash to get the screen repaired. But again, the screen was out of stock and it was like back ordered or whatever. So there's just no hope right now. But yeah, so that's how my life is going, and it's frustrating because I want to content create. Like, I love having that creativity just getting out there, and I love talking to y'all. I love it. So it's just like it's frustrating knowing that like I can't do that, or I can't do that as easily because my laptop is just shit the bed basically. It still works. It's just every once in a while it just wants to do its thing. But I've noticed with it plugged in, like, okay, let me see. This is the portable monitor that we've got going on. I've noticed that with it plugged in, it tends to do that less. And I also plugged in a mouse in hopes that that helps. And of course, me lifting the screen, I just kind of fucked up here because now the dots are back. But I'm still recording. So you know what? We're going to keep recording and hopefully I can just edit this whenever it lets me move my mouse because my mouse literally will not let me move it. So I might have to press enter or something to get it to stop. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But that's my frustration. So it's like I need to like take a breath of fresh air and remind myself that there were bigger problems than a laptop. Like, everything can come and go. and this is the only kind of control I have over the situation, and I just have to kind of let it be. So now that I've talked y'all's ears off for 15 minutes, we're going to get into today's podcast episode, which is raising your standards. We're going to talk about raising your standards in terms of dating, but can also be applied anywhere in your life, friendships, yourself, your family, the things that you keep, anything. So, raising your standards, a little backstory. I feel like this was a good episode to make because I've noticed that in the past, I have accepted the bare minimum. I have struggled with myself and my self worth. And I've also just realized that, like, I've been dating for potential over what the person actually is. And I feel like that's the big one. I feel like not a lot of people understand that, like, when you're dating somebody for potential, that's a gamble. You don't know what that person is going to turn into. You don't know if they're going to stay the same or if they're going to reach that potential. And you cannot make them reach that potential. And I've noticed, like, I would date guys for their potential and I would be so encouraging, but then I would get frustrated because I was watching them for their potential. I was dating them for their potential and not what they actually were. So when it came down to it and they didn't meet my expectations, that fell on me because my expectation of them was what I saw in them, not what they actually were. And so when it comes to dating somebody, you need to kind of really get that reality check of, like, I need to make sure I am dating this person because they are who I want to be with, not I see potential in them and I see what they could be, because they're not always going to rise up to that potential. They're not always going to rise up to the occasion and be the person that you hope that they'll be. And I think I've learned that. I think that after Jeff, I really started focusing on who I wanted to be with versus their potential. And it can be hard to do because, so after Jeff, everyone kind of knows. If you know me personally, after Jeff, I actually came out. Um, and it wasn't right after. I actually had a friend that I slept with, and I had realized I felt nothing with him. And I was like, I had a crush on the person I imagined him to be versus who he actually was. And I realized, I was like, why am I not into this? And at first I was like, maybe it's just because, like, I imagined him being something different and I imagined something different in him. And then I slept with a girl and I had a relationship with a girl. And I am not kidding you. I was I was intimate with her, let's just say that. And I looked over at her and I go, I am gay. I was like, this makes sense now, because I could not form an emotional and a sexual link with a man. I would maybe feel one or the other, but I could never feel both. And it was mostly the intimacy portion of it. It was mostly like the emotional connection, because I always saw a man as what he could do for me and not what I could do for him. Um I mean, I kind of did, but in almost like a business transaction type of way. It was almost like if I help him grow to be this, like he'll take care of me in this way or that way. Whereas, like with a woman, I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking, wow, she is so pretty, or like I just want to take care of her. I just want to do this for her. I want to do that for her. Like I never really felt that way with a man, and I think that's kind of what made me realize my sexuality. But I must say, my standards definitely took a whole turn because dating women is completely different. But also, I kind of started, I don't want to say in the bottom of the barrel because I'm not going to do that girl like that. I'm not going to do her dirty. She is not the bottom of the barrel. I know there are way worse women out there, Sedona. Um, but no, I'm sorry, I had to do that. I'm just feeding into the drama. No, but seriously, the girl that made me come out, or I should say, like, the girl that, like, made me realize, and I eventually just came out as full on lesbian and not just bisexual. Um, she was not bottom of the barrel, but she did made me realize that even though I'm dating women, you still have to raise your standards if you want like a good, healthy relationship because we were not right for each other. We were not good for each other. We probably brought out the worst for each other. And I had realized, like, dang, like this girl and I are not it. If any of y'all follow astrology, it was funny to me because we had the same sun, the same moon, and the same rising. And I was like, oh, like this is either going to be a soulmate connection or like the worst connection ever. And I was so attached to her physically, emotionally, mentally that I did not see the red flags clearly. Like it was almost as if I had seen them and they were right in front of my face, but I said, nope, no, thank you. I don't care. I love red. Literally wearing a red shirt. But it was almost as if like I saw it and I ignored it. And that's not what you're supposed to be doing. Like I get it. Like your first in-person relationship with a female, I should say, because I had a relationship with a female before. I had slept with a female before. I'd kissed a female before. Like that was like old news to me. This was my first relationship with a female that was not long distance. So it was the full experience of being with her. She lived 15 minutes from me, so it was like this was like my first experience of being with a woman and being in like a relationship with the woman and it being right there in front of me. Um I think it came to mind that it's not that I knew I could do better. It was almost as if like I just didn't care. And that is just where it all falls apart because when you know you can do better and you don't care, it all hell is going to break loose because you are going to keep going back to that person. You're going to create this just toxic relationship. And that's just where like the toxicity just festers and like blows up the entire relationship is like the best way I can put it. But it was just like I knew I could do better and I knew that like her and I were not right for each other and I did not care. That was the problem because the more you let somebody do something, the more you let somebody walk all over you, the more you forgive somebody, the less they are going to respect you. And this is something I had to deal with. And I've dealt with this in relationships with men too. Like with Alec, like he would cheat on me, he would hurt me, he would manipulate me, and I would take him back every single time because I didn't think I deserved better. I had that low of self esteem. And I just didn't I like didn't think I could do better. So I was like, I don't care, like I'm going to stick with him. It was this trauma bond. It was this like I saw nothing else. I was in this trance. I was in this world that I didn't understand. And I just let him abuse me in so many different forms. And he respected me less and less. So I know I'm kind of jumping back and forth. So if you have ADHD, you're probably following along just fine. But if you are not neurodivergent, I do apologize. So essentially, the main people that I talk about on this podcast when it comes to relationships, you might hear me talk about others, and I will name them. But essentially, Alec, Jeff, and Anna, and then Larissa, of course. There are people in between. um, However, those are like the main developing people in my life. Those are the main people that have developed my story, I guess is the best way I can put it, because those relationships held so much weight in some way, shape, or form for this podcast. So if you hear me talk about them, that is why. And I'm gonna throw the names out there, and that's the order too. So Alec, Jeff, Anna. So between Alec and Jeff, um, there was some time, and I had talked to some people, but those were two major relationships, one after the other, with a little bit of time in between, but not necessarily any important people in between. And I'll put it that way. And then between Jeff and Anna, there were people in between, but no major people, because it was a shorter span of time. It was probably a couple months, if that, like very little time in between that. Like I had literally like went to Italy, realized my sexuality. I had come back, I'd slept with that man, realized my sexuality, and like been with her, and then it just like that's how it was. So between Alec and Jeff, after my relationship with Alec, the reason we broke up, and knowing that I was overcoming trauma of being sexually abused by him, I took that time to heal, or at least I thought, you know, as much as somebody can heal from that type of trauma, without therapy, mind you. That was a big one. I should have went to therapy, and I did start going to therapy when I started seeing Jeff. But in that time frame, um, one thing that I had wished for before meeting Jeff and after meeting Alec is I was like, the next relationship that I'm in, they're going to treat me with respect. Like, that was like the bare minimum that should be in anyone's relationship. But like, after being abused, manipulated by like this narcissist, I was like, okay, I just want a healthy relationship with somebody who respects me and loves me, right? I was like, that's all I want. And that's all I got. So when I started dating Jeff, I had manifested him in a way. I was like, I need somebody who cares about me and loves me. And I then realized, being in a relationship with him, that that's not all I need, because I did not feel for him what I think he felt for me. And I think I tried on many occasions to get there. I think I was hoping that I could force myself to love him, and I could force myself to be happy with him, and like that it would work. But it didn't, because he was not my person. And also, coming out of like such a traumatic relationship that I was in with Alec, like I think that I don't even know if I loved Alec either. And I like kind of like looked back on that, and I was like, I hated a lot about him. Like, not hated, I guess that would be a harsh term, but like I didn't love things about him. He was just a person that I was like connected through such like manipulation, mind games. that I was like, I thought I loved him, but like looking back, I'm like, what did I love him for? Like, did I just feel like attached to him and I couldn't do better and I was afraid because it was like he would push my ego down and my self-esteem down so much, like he just broke me down, and I was like a human with no thoughts, no words, no substance. And I think I realized, like, looking back at those relationships, I I fear that I don't to this day know if I loved them. I don't know because I can't think of that feeling. I can't go back and place myself. And my fear is that I feel like if you love someone, you never really stop. And I don't know if that's ingrained to my brain wrongly. Like, I don't know if that's true. Like, if you love someone, you're always going to love somebody. Like, I'm not sure, right? Because if I like think like between Jeff and Alec and Anna, like I still care about Anna, but I know she's not right for me. I'm never gonna go back. Like, but I'm still like in the back of my mind, I'm like, I hope she's doing well. Like, and I guess that's what makes me think of like, I don't think of my male exes in that way. Like, I think of my first girlfriend and I'm like, man, I haven't talked to Maddie in probably over 10 years. And she was like my first girlfriend, right? I have not spoken to her. I have no idea how she's doing. I literally don't have her on social media. I literally don't even know if she's alive. But I'm like, damn, I hope she's doing well. And my thing is like, I don't think about my male exes that way. And I'm like, it's a whole struggle with sexuality at this point. But that's not even the part of this episode. So I'm going to kind of let that go. But I guess I just kind of wanted to bring that up in a sense because I think it has a lot to do with how I've developed as a person and also my standards. Just because I had come to the realization of my sexuality does not mean my sexuality changed my standards. And I think it's a common misconception that, like, being with women versus men, like, you're gonna have a so much better time because they, like, meet all of your standards. Now, there are women that treat women well, but there are women that treat women like shit. So, I guess I kind of wanted to put out a disclaimer there that, like, just because you're with women does not mean that they're going to treat you any better. They might actually treat you worse than some men. Um, but again, I digress. I think I had realized my standards after Anna because I had realized, like, I cannot love somebody because, okay, let me back up a second. So after Alec, I was like, all I want is somebody who treats me with respect and treats me right, right? And then after Jeff, after all of that drama and everything unfolded in that, I said, I want to feel something. I I want a relationship that just I feel something for them and it almost feels like a soul tie of some sort. Like I was like manifesting just feeling something for somebody because I felt like after Jeff, like I did mourn that relationship and I do think I cared about him, but I know that like if we ended up together, I was going to be annoyed for the rest of my life, as my mom would say. I don't know that I would have married him. I don't know if I would have felt that joy and excitement that like you see all over the internet when like someone proposes to you. Like I don't know if I would have been like this is this is what it's like to get asked. Like I feel like I would have felt that way even in a romantic setting because I know it was supposed to happen in Italy. So I don't even know if like that would have been in my timeline. And I think because of all the experiences I have, I'm thankful to say, like, I've learned that, like, that's not what I want. And I definitely want to be with a female, and I definitely know that like I envision that like with a female asking me to be married and like getting married to a woman. That is just something that makes sense to me, and I can actually picture it, and I can actually be like, that's something that makes me happy. Um, but after Jeff, like that's all I wanted. So then I kind of manifested Anna in a way. And that is where I felt things. I had felt so strongly and so much for her, and it was not good. And it was almost as if the universe was giving me exactly what I was asking for, but that's all they were giving me. And it makes sense because I'm like, holy crap, like I am getting what I'm asking for, but it's not almost ever enough. Sorry, my insulin pump is beeping at me because apparently it's high. And I just realized I don't know if I dosed for lunch. And I'm actually gonna. It's delivering. It's delivering units because I dosed. Am I eating anything? No, but I'm worried that I didn't dose for breakfast. This is great because I can't even stop or pause due to me. Like, if I stop this, I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it back up. So, y'all are getting every little bit in this episode, and I am so sorry. Hold on, it's still delivering. Can you please hurry up? I really need to check something. It's literally when it's delivering, that's like, oh, it finally stopped. Or no, it just went off the page. Literally, it says cancel and then the delivery screen. So, like, you cannot go to any other screen. Okay. I'm just going to check my activity and my meals. I never gave for my breakfast. I had an acai bowl and it was very yummy and I should have gave insulin for it. I just did now. But wow, I can't believe my blood sugar is high and I'm just like going at it. Um, anyway, so after Anna, I I took some time, almost a year actually, if not more than a year. Yeah. Anyway, I I took time, um and I dated around, I was casually dating, I was friends with benefits with some people. I even did meet a girl that I almost asked out for reals. We talked for a couple months and I thought she was great, but I think I wasn't ready for a relationship. And I think a lot of that had to do with the fact that, like, things were kind of fresh with Anna, and I was like not ready for like something serious because I was stuck on that. Not to say that I was like I loved her and I wanted her back, but just like I still had those feelings. The relationship was so fresh, and I think I didn't expect things to develop with Emily the way that they did because I was so nervous. I was like, I'm kind of freshly lesbian at this point, and I'm like, I don't know how to like date somebody. And like my first like relationship with that was like after me coming out and not being bisexual, just being lesbian, my first like relationship after coming out in that form was just so different and so it was a lot to take in. So it was almost like I didn't know what I was doing. I just knew that I thought she was pretty and I liked talking to her, and it was almost like this friendship vibe that I like wanted to develop, but I almost was like, am I pushing this or like what is going on? Because like I had felt things for Emily, but I almost like couldn't describe what it was. And I was like, I like her. I want to give her flowers. I want to make her happy and see her smile and see her laugh. But it was almost like I didn't know what I was doing. I felt purposeless. I felt like I was like, do I continue this? Do I want to continue this? And after a while, I think I just started realizing that if I continued to question it for longer, it was because maybe it wasn't right for me. And I think I finally, there was still drama with Anna and Emily. That poor girl. I know she's been through it with me and Anna and just me in general. And ultimately, like, we decided to cut things off and be friends. But I always wondered, like, if the times were different, what that would be. But then I also remember I think everything happens for a reason, and I think I didn't ask her out because there was something stopping me, and it was just something in me that knew like she was not the one. Even though I had felt things, and even though I knew she would have been such a great partner, I think there was just something missing, and I couldn't quite figure out what it was. And I think honestly, it was that like deep connection that I was looking for. And I don't know if Anna had hindered that because I was so fresh off of that I thought that I would never find something that deep again. But then I started talking to more people, and I also like took breaks in between. I can't set the scene very well here apparently. But like after all of that, like it was New Year's, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna start fresh. I am going to just take it chill. So I took it chill for a while, and I was just doing me. Um, Eventually decided to casually date. I think this was like maybe a month later. Like I think this was like in February or something. I was like, I think I like had the app downloaded for like a game on New Year's, and I just kind of like kept it, but I never really did anything with it. And I like there were so many points where I would like delete the apps and bring them back. And like if y'all are in dating nowadays, I'm sure you can relate in some way, shape, or form to any of what I'm saying. Um, but I think around February or so, I was like talking to people, and there were two main people that I was talking to. And I don't know, I was kind of casually dating, right? It was like I was up in the air. I just wanted to like get to know people and kind of like see how things went. And there was this one girl that I really, really liked. And then there was this other girl that I was like, I kind of like her. And they were completely different, right? One was masc, one was femme. And I I really liked the mask girl, and I quickly realized that I was not priority. I feel like I was very low on the list, and I kind of dipped. I was like, I I kind of want somebody to like give me their time. And this is where I kind of learned what my standards were, whether I was dating just to date and kind of figure out what I wanted, because I never had the chance to experience that as a lesbian woman. I was kind of new to the dating world once again because I would quickly get into or develop relationships with people. So finally, I cut that girl off, and I was talking to the femme, and we went on a couple of dates. However, things did not progress because I was still very freshly new to it, and I think she was looking for more or was interested in somebody else, which was also probably it, because I'm pretty sure she wanted like a sexual encounter of some sort, but I would never really take it past kissing and cuddling. And it was wild to me because like I had sex with women. Um, Mind you, it was like three different women at this point because I had a friends with benefits. Um, another friends with benefits, and Anna. So I had like slept with women. I had gained the kind of experience that, would have made me confident in dating. However, I don't know why I couldn't man up and like do it. And like want to do it. And I think it's because I finally realized that even though I was like kind of dating around and like getting to know these people, I was not ready. Like, not even ready for casually dating. I was like, this is like, my mind was like, Marissa, like, you just need to like log off. And right before my birthday, is when things ended with that femme. And I was single. I was not interested. I was like, I am done. um, and I stopped dating. I was over it. I didn't care. I literally just wanted nothing to do with anything. And I felt great for the first time in a while. And mind you, I don't think Emily and I were talking much, or maybe we were talking here and there. We were talking here and there as friends because, again, I said I had ended things around New Year's. The reason why I do that is because I'm disgusted at myself because I had ended things on New Year's. Like, I'm grossed out by myself. Which I guess is the whole point of this podcast. Like, you learn and grow from your dumbass mistakes. But I'm just like, oh my god, I can't believe I did that. Like, that's so disgusting of me. Like, obviously, you never want to break up with somebody like towards the holidays, and like Christmas would have been awful, but like New Year's, I mean, I hope she kissed my ass goodbye in that way, like, as she should. But no, in all seriousness, I ended up asking her to go to the Taylor Swift concert with me, and that's kind of when her and I were just like, I told her, I was like, listen, like, I'm so sorry. And it was the weirdest thing. Like, to this day, my mind, like, okay, let's be honest, this episode is like a diary at this point. So, like, y'all are getting all of the tea, but also my thoughts are just out loud at this point. Um, I had to give that as a disclaimer because I will get into the tips of raising your standards, but I think the story is also important because it kind of shows you my mindset was not all there, and it was not all there. Um, but no. So I had asked her, I was like, listen, I'm so sorry for what I did. Like, I don't even know if I told her like I quit dating or whatever, but I was just like, listen, like, I I feel like I owe you an apology. I've probably apologized a million times at that point. I'm trying to also remember what I had said, but basically I had apologized and I was like, I don't technically owe her anything, but like I wanted to bring her to the Taylor Swift concert because like it was my way of being like, I know you love Taylor Swift, first of all, and I know you've wanted tickets, but also it was like I still cared about her, whether it be, romantic or not. I get it. Like, it was a friendship way, but I was like, I still like care about you and like I want to see you happy, and like I would love if you just came with me and had a good time. And, she was kind of able to put aside, I mean, I know she kind of forgave at that point. So she didn't really have anything to put aside. I'm just a dumbass, and like she knows that. God. I laugh about it because I'm like, I was so stupid. Like, I did fumble this woman, but like, it's the lesbian world is also weird because I fumbled this woman, but we're friends. And I think I laugh about it because I realize the lesbian world is so different. Like, I feel like if I were to have fumbled a man, or a man would have fumbled me in a same or similar way, like there would be no talking. There would be no friendship. But it's like, I guess women just care. Like, maybe it just chalks down. chalks down, chalks up, I don't know, to that, because I'm like, even though like I know I fumbled her and I know I did her dirty by like not wanting to be with her and kind of just talking to her for a couple of months, and I should have ended it earlier if I would have realized like what was going on in my brain, that I was not just truly ready. Um but it's just wild to me. Maybe I should just chalk it up to that like women just care, and that's why we're able to move differently and like able to kind of like forgive and like I don't know. I don't know. I guess that's my rant with that. But anyway, like we went to the Taylor Swift concert and I ended up moving to San Antonio shortly after. So that the Taylor Swift concert was in May. So I had stopped dating probably right before my birthday, which was like early March, if not like the end of February. So March, April, May, June, July, August, 6 months of me being single. And I want to say about 4 or 5 of those months was me focusing on myself. I was reading books. I was learning how to date myself. I was learning how to heal past trauma. I was doing shadow work journals. Um, and I was kind of figuring out who I wanted to be. And I was also going to therapy and seeing a psychiatrist for PTSD. So I was like really just like buckling down on me as a person, trying to figure out who I am again, figure out what lesbian Marissa looks like, what I want in a person, all of that. I had moved to San Antonio because for some reason, I want to say this happened in like April/May. I had decided I wanted to move, and it was either going to be Texas or Florida. I had applied to, I was looking in Florida, and there was no good places for me to move to. So I kind of ruled Florida out. And I was disappointed in that because I was really hoping to be in like the St. Pete area, Clearwater area. I had a friend in that area and then another friend in um, Tampa. Yeah, another friend in Tampa and another friend in another part of Florida, and then most of my friends from Naples when I lived there. So I was kind of disappointed because I was like, man, Florida would have been like it, you know? Like, I would have moved back and I would have felt great. But I think part of me wanted to move forward, and by doing so, I'm not saying you have to move states to move forward, but it was almost like moving states was my way of restarting my brain, figuring out who I was outside of family, outside of friends, outside of like every influence I've ever had, and just letting myself be me. So I had also chose these two states because Tori lived in San Antonio. She lives in Houston now, but essentially I needed at least one person that I knew and trusted to be around me. I didn't want to move like completely nowhere. But something was calling me to San Antonio, and I was like, what? What is it? Because I have no idea. And I, to this day, think it had to do with the universe wanting me to eventually find Larissa, but we'll get into that. Um, I fully do believe that, like, all of the decisions I've made kind of led up to where I'm at this moment. And I think when I moved here, like, I was still dating myself, but I was a lot lonelier. I had no friends in my vicinity. I hung out with Tori a couple of times, But I was like, I want a fresh perspective, and like I want to figure out who I'm going to be, and I need kind of that alone time and seclusion to do so. And I think her and I kind of had this thing where like we both kind of agreed that like we have each other and we're good like friends, but like I don't need to be up her ass and she doesn't need to be up mine. Like it's almost this friendship of like we are adults, like she's in a whole ass relationship, and I kind of just moved here because I did kind of feel called to move here, but also like it wasn't to be up her ass, you know what I mean? So I lived in my apartment. I didn't leave, and then there were days where I would like go out and explore. But overall, I was like trying to figure out who I was, and I was doing it in whatever way made sense to me. So there were days where I felt secluded and lonely, and I dug deep into that loneliness. And that's when I think like actual healing came into play. I think I was healing in Connecticut, but I think there was just so many forces that I felt like were watching me in a way. I don't know how to explain it, but I just felt like I needed room to breathe. Like I was living with my best friend and like somebody else, and like I guess my thing is I always had somebody to lean on, and I wanted to lean on myself. And I think San Antonio and moving there and having my own apartment, it made me self reliant because if I wanted to cry, like I did it in the company of myself. If I wanted to talk to somebody, I could, but like it was going to be a phone call or text. So I really secluded myself, and I don't know if that was for better or for worse because it definitely led me into part of a depression, but it also made me realize like if I want life to happen, I have to do it for myself. I can't just expect it to happen to me. So, what I've learned is that, like, if I want friends, I need to go out and make them. If I want a relationship, I need to go out and have that happen. And that's when I started kind of like picking up, and I was like, okay, like, I'm gonna make friends, I'm gonna talk to people. And like, I did. And that's a whole other story. But I want to get into um, ways to raise your standards because I don't need to go through my whole story for it, but I just kind of wanted to give you guys an idea of little things that I did that can help raise your standards. And I don't know if y'all caught on to it. So, here are some things that you can do. So, remember when I said I kind of manifested the people that I was like getting ready to date, or like I manifested that person before I actually met them. So number 1 is manifesting that person. But here is a real actual way that you should do it because here's how I met Larissa. I made a list of my non-negotiables. And I'm pretty sure I still have it in my notes, but I just want to check. Let me see. I'm pretty sure it's still in my notes. It should be anyway. Um, Deal breaker list. That's what I called it. I made it on 10. That doesn't seem right. I edited it on 10/19/23. I was like, I knew who Larissa was before then. I think that's when I like must have edited it somehow. Um, but I made like a whole list. So here's like some examples. of what you would want to put in for a deal breakers list. I said, I want someone who's grown in every aspect. I expect maturity, the ability to make stern and serious decisions, emotional intelligence, and can express themselves appropriately. That was like one thing. Another one, I expect communication always. I don't want things to be hidden. The ability to talk about finances, emotional state of mind slash mental health, speaking up when something bothers you, telling me about your day, etc. Your level of communication shows your level of wanting to be with me. So these are essentially it's a deal breakers list on like values, personality traits, stuff like that. We're not focusing on looks at all. Although I must admit I did end up dating a brown-eyed brunette. And those are like my favorite qualities. Um However, I also had to learn that because like I had dated people with green eyes, blue eyes, gray eyes. Like I was like, wow, like I love green eyes, or I love red hair, or I love this, I love that. I think I came to realize in hair I liked dark features, and in eyes it didn't really matter. But I do come to know that I really do like brown eyes. So it's like dark features, and then like you could have either light eyes or brown eyes, but it really doesn't matter to me what color eyes. Um, it just happens to be that brown eyes eventually came to be. But the deal breakers list was my way of manifesting my person in a non-negotiable form. I knew I wanted communication. I didn't want I had had relationships where people would hide stuff from me, whether it be their mental health or finances, and I was like, I don't want to do that. I wanted communication. I wanted somebody who could be goofy with me. I wanted to feel something. Like all of that is in the deal breakers list. I just happened to kind of note some really strong points at the beginning, which is what you heard. The reason I say strong points is that they feel very like you either have it or you don't. I mean, that is a deal breakers list, but it's like, come on, Marissa, damn, where's the leeway? I don't know. Maybe that's just me. But I think I came up with that list based off of people that I was previously with. And I think that does help when you're going around and dating people, you learn what you like and what you don't like. And the most important part about making a non-negotiable list is once you kind of have your base list, and like you can either add or subtract based off of like, okay, like this is like a non-negotiable, but like maybe this part is okay. Like for example, I want communication and I want you to be able to talk about your mental health, but you're allowed to have time to yourself. You're allowed to not talk about everything. Like there are certain, I guess, aspects that like are negotiable, if that makes sense. Like the main portion is the communication. If we don't have good communication, it's not going to work. That's the non-negotiable aspect of it. Um, the main thing though is once you have that like bare list, that those bones of that list, stick to it. Do not let anybody come through and tear down that list. There was actually this girl that I had met, and I had met her through Tori. So it was Tori's friends. The guy that she was talking to knew this girl. That's how the web was, right? And apparently she was a lesbian, and the guy was like, "Oh, do you mind older?" And I was like, "No, like I actually prefer it. Like I do tend to like older women." Um So I was like, all right, like, I don't care. Um, and I had slept with her, I had hung out with her, and I realized it was not it. And I even think I looked back on that non-negotiables list and I was looking through it and I was like, oof, like this isn't gonna work. Like there was just certain things. And communication was actually one of them. I'm the type of person that if I don't respond to you, please respect that because I need my space. I will talk to you when I want to. But also, there's this I don't want to talk to somebody 24/7. It's annoying. Like, for example, when I met Larissa, we were talking pretty much every day as friends, but there were times where, like, I would be busy and it wasn't a problem. However, this girl, I wouldn't respond, and it was almost like I would get another text and I'd be like, I understand that communication, like consistent communication, all day, every day might be what she's looking for, but it's not what I'm looking for. And I had come to realize, like, just because she's older does not mean that she's in the same mindset as me. And that's okay. Like, that's just not what I'm looking for. So eventually things were kind of just cut out on that, and I mean, I kind of feel bad for the way it happened because I could have definitely communicated more of like, hey, this isn't what I'm looking for. But at the same time, I wasn't really looking for a relationship and I had expressed that. So I didn't think that there was any sort of like need for me to be like, hey, like I'm good on this. Like we kind of just fizzled. We stopped hanging out, we stopped talking. It was that. Um, and that's also maybe like a month or two later is when I met Cass, and then I think I've went into the Cass and Larissa story. So we're not going to deal with that story cuz that's a whole other topic. But making your non-negotiables list is very important because you're going to need to stick to it, and you're going to realize that you are going to encounter people that test that list. I promise you. The universe is going to send you somebody and see what you do. And what I have also noticed is that sometimes that list, the person that you send, they might have like those non-negotiables, but they also want to see if a pretty face is going to change that, if a sexual attraction is going to change that. And it's funny because I feel like I was sexually attracted to somebody and they did not fit my non-negotiables list as well as I had written it out. And I was like, this is not going to work. But the universe was testing me and saying, okay, well, if I put a pretty face in there, what are you gonna do? I eventually passed. Thank you. Um, but I think it's important to make that non negotiables list and stick to it because you never know when you're gonna have to stick to it or what might arise to make you stray from that non negotiables list. And that's why I call it a non negotiable because there were certain things that you really need to like remember. And you can make a non-negotiable list of like things that are like absolutely not, and then things of like, well, I would really like this, because that's what I was doing before my previous relationships. Like with Alex to Jeff, I was like, I would really like it if someone treated me well and like loved me. And then after Jeff, I was like, I would really like it if I had somebody that I felt something for. So you can make two different lists. You can combine them and kind of separate them in a way. However, you want to do it, make sure you are focused on that list, but also what will help you make your list and find out what your standards are is envisioning the person that you want to be. Normally, a lot of people call this like your higher self. So if your higher vibrational self, like envision who that is. Maybe there is somebody that you look up to. Maybe it's just who you imagine yourself to be if you work on yourself a little bit more, or if you overcome certain traumas or aspects that you need to overcome. Whatever your higher self looks like, envision that and envision what they would want. So let's say I'm just going to use communication as an example because I've already talked about it. Let's say a certain level of communication is what you require right now, but your higher self requires a different level of communication, that kind of thing. Or maybe, okay, this one is not realistic as a goal that you should be following in this form or in this fashion, but it's the first one that I thought of. So let's say right now you don't need someone who treats you well, but your higher self says, I need somebody who treats me well. I know, bad example, bad example. You should always have somebody that treats you well. But that was just the first thing that came to mind. And I think it's harder to like think about this because I'm trying not to look at my list and give you guys my input, because I don't want to affect you guys in any way, shape, or form. I think you guys need to all have your own list, but those are just examples of like different tiers. Like maybe my current self values one thing, but maybe my higher self might value something different. And I think that helps you raise your standards because you are trying to be a better person. The Many Mistakes Ago podcast is all about learning from your mistakes, growing, and becoming a better person. Excuse me. It's all about forgiving yourself for past mistakes. It's all about starting anew. It's all about building and growing and learning, right? Like that's the theme. So if we are building and growing and learning, eventually we are going to be our higher selves. So why not set yourself to that standard, right? Because what better way to do it than to put it in practice? So that'll help you find out what your standards are and also raise them, because you're not currently thinking about it, but if you envision yourself at a higher level and envision your higher self, you are forcibly putting yourself at that level to see what your standards are. Another thing that helps you raise your standards is to let go. This could be letting go of people. This could be letting go of ideas. This could be letting go of memories, whatever it is. Because the thing is when you are stepping into a different version of yourself, you are going to leave things behind. It's almost as if one door closes, another door opens. It's kind of that vibe, right? So don't be afraid to lose people, to leave people behind in this process. Don't be afraid to change, because it is inevitable. You are going to change in some way, shape, or form. You might leave friends behind. You might leave ideas behind. You might leave habits behind. Whatever it is, don't be afraid to let go, because the only way for you to open up a door is to let go of old closets. I don't know. I don't know where I was going with that. Closets just sounded perfect. So, okay, for example, closets. That's why it came to mind. You have clothes in your closet. You bought 3 new pairs of jeans. You have to get rid of something in your closet to make room for it because you don't have enough room. How are you going to make room? Okay, I'm going to get rid of these 3 jeans because it makes sense. Or maybe I'm going to get rid of that shirt, that jean, and that jacket. Whatever it is, make room. Don't be afraid to let things go, leave people behind, to change. Very important. And then also get over your fear of being alone, because when you're leaving people behind, a common fear is being alone. And I actually really struggled with this. I don't want to say as much in Connecticut, because I did have a fear of being alone, but I was going through it and going with it. And it also kept a lot of my friends from Connecticut, because a lot of the friendships that I have there, they're real, they're raw, they're exactly what I want. But I think the fear of being alone really came into play while I was here, because I had met two friends in San Antonio that I really loved and appreciated. But as I got into a relationship with Larissa, and as I was also really working on this podcast and working on the person I wanted to be, I saw that my values did not align with their values, and I came to realize they were not they were not looking to change. They were looking to stay the same. And I think they want to believe that they want to change and do better and heal, but they're not actually putting in the work to do so. Whereas for me, I'm journaling every night, and I'm not sitting here going out every weekend and partying or smoking weed or drinking or, looking up how my ex is doing. I'm literally sitting at home with my dog, journaling and um doing shadow work, or maybe I am hanging out with my girlfriend if she's home. But when she's not and it's just me, I'm reading, I'm journaling, I'm working on a podcast, I'm working on a vlog, not Pilates yet, but I have a Pilates reformer. I guess my values over time have changed, and so much more so now. But even previously, when I was kind of on my way out of being friends with them, I guess is the best way to put it. I had so many other values. I was, doing shadow work. Maybe I wasn't doing therapy because at the time when I had just moved from Connecticut, I had stopped therapy because my therapist and my psychiatrist did not have licenses in Texas. So I was like, great, I have to find a new one. And then I ended up getting a new job, and I was like, great, the people that I had picked, not in my network, so I have to start all over again. But bottom line is, um, I had different values, and I was I was noticing it before I did anything. I was noticing that our values were different, but I was so afraid to let go of them, because I was afraid of being alone, and I was afraid of not having friends, and I was afraid of losing them and leaving them behind, when the reality is that's the door closing so that another one can open. So when I finally was like, okay, these friendships are clearly not it for me, that door was closed, and I was very upset about it. I even like I guess made this was the God, which podcast was it? Was it a podcast or a vlog? It was around the time of Pride. I had a Pride story. I think that was a vlog. But anyway, I was saddened by losing that friendship and closing that door, but at the same time I was so upset and angry at not feeling like I was a friend for a long time, and feeling like a third wheel for such a long time, that I was like, you know what? Even though it hurts, I know I'm okay, and I know I'm going to be okay, because I knew this was coming. And I think that was like my mentality at that point, was like I knew this was coming, so like it's going to be okay. And to this day, like I am only really friends with Tori here, but I'm not really putting in an effort for a new friendship because I don't think I'm ready for that yet. I think right now, my focus is on a lot of other things that kind of adding finding friends to the list is just not it for me. But I know that when I am ready to connect with people and connect with making friends here in San Antonio, like that will happen. And if it doesn't, that's fine because eventually I do want to move with my girlfriend, but we plan on being here for at least 2 years. So who knows what's going to happen. But I think I just have so many other priorities that like finding friends is not one. And I'm completely okay with not having friends right now because I have so many other things that I want to do. So don't be afraid to lose people because losing people could mean opening a completely different door. And another thing about raising your standards is accepting that things take time. If you feel rushed to do something, it's probably not for you. And I can promise you that. And the reason is think of it like a scam. I know it's a weird way of thinking, but you know how scam text messages and emails and stuff, they come through, they're always very urgent. They're marked as urgent, like do this now, act now, or your account will be closed or whatever. Like there's like a threat to like do it urgently. The thing about that is it almost triggers something in you and like triggers something that's not, you don't want it to be triggered. Like it doesn't need to be. So I think that like the scam, I don't know how I was relating it. Like when you have those scams, you're like you question it. So why not do that in real life? Like if someone wants to move fast, if they're love bombing you, if they are moving too fast for you, if things are happening too fast or you just feel uneasy about the pace or uneasy about the person or uneasy about anything really, just something in this situation makes you feel uneasy and like rushed, take that at face value. Take that as a red flag because I promise you it is. Good things come with time and good things happen in time. And the reason I say this is because I'll use my girlfriend as an example, as I always do. Larissa and I met in September. We were talking in August as friends and like we had met online, but I met her for the first time on September 12th, which is almost a year from now, a year ago. At this point, it is literally September 1st. So like a year ago today, we knew each other. We hadn't met yet. And we talked almost every day. We talked very often, and it was because I felt such a strong connection to her. I had manifested her into my life without realizing. It was everything I've ever wanted, but I had to be patient. She wasn't with anyone, but she did have an ex that was still involved in her life because they had a lease together. And they weren't together. They were, as far as I was aware, they weren't even sleeping in the same room. They had separate bedrooms, separate beds, like everything, right? They were completely separated. This was a mutual, like, breakup. They just were not having it, were not doing it, right? And she actually was talking to somebody else. And so was I. But we wanted to find friends. And that was around the time last year. Like I was trying to find friends in San Antonio. This was before I met Z and Eli, or about the same time actually. And I was like, this girl is everything that I've ever wanted, but like, we're friends and we're on the basis of friends. And I can't say that like I love bombed in my head, because this idea of her being everything I've ever wanted did not come like day one. Like, this was an accumulation of thoughts and observations over time. So like, it wasn't like I met her and she was everything I wanted. No. Um it was more like we were friends, and every single day that we talked, with every text message, with every joke, with every like knowledge of her and getting to know her, I was more and more intrigued. And it was like this slow kind of like almost like stairway of like building a relationship. And even though we were building a friendship, I think at a certain point after meeting her, I I mean, I kind of had this idea that I liked her, but I didn't know if I liked the idea of her or just her, because I hadn't met her yet. But when I did meet her, I was like, yeah, I do like her. Um, However, we continued to be friends. I took my time, and there was a reason for it, because I didn't want to rush into anything. And I was also like, I really do like her as a friend. Like, she is going to be my best friend. Like, if I don't date her, she will be my best friend. That's for sure. And we also, both of us, weren't in each other's heads. We just liked talking to each other. So I didn't know if she liked me or how she felt about me, and vice versa. So it was like this kind of like back and forth of like, oh my God, like, what's going on? But also, it was like I was enjoying every second of just talking to her and just being in her presence, that nothing was rushed. Not even meeting her. Granted, she did ask me a couple times to meet, but like, it was also not pressured. And I never felt pressured. And I never felt either of us pressuring each other to do anything. It was almost just like this mutual agreement that we wanted to spend time with each other the minute we like hung out. Like, we were like, yeah, this is what I want right now. And it was just like this mutual like, yeah. Yeah, I like this. I don't know what this is, but I like it. And it was just so easy. And I took my time. She took her time. And slowly, over the course of 2 months, because all of September, half of August, and half of October, we were friends, and we were just getting to know each other, right? And finally, somewhere along the line in October, the girl she was dating, not like dating, like not in a relationship, but I guess they were casual. And the girl that I was dating, casual, again, not in a relationship, um, we both broke things off. And it was because, like, her reasoning was like, I don't know, like, the girl she was talking to wasn't it. And that was kind of the same thing for me. Like, and this girl that I was talking to, I was like, she's great, but like, something's missing. And for me, it was a deep emotional connection. I was really looking for that, and that was really important to me. And I had gotten that with Larissa, and I think that that's what I was looking for in this other girl, and I just wasn't getting it. And there's a reason for that. And eventually, again, things were cut off, and we were both single. And there was a point where she had gotten drunk. It was a little bit before her birthday, I believe. Yes. Yes, before her birthday. It was in October. It was like mid October, right before her birthday. It had to have been. So she was drunk, and she admitted to having more than just friendship feelings. And I was like, when was this? Rue, when was this? No. And that's when it was like, oh shit, like what I'm feeling is actually mutual. Like it's not just me. And we let it develop and we let it take time. And I think that's the biggest lesson out of all of this because we're moved in together now. We have a 2-bedroom apartment that she is literally calling her dream. Like, obviously, it's not a dream home because it's an apartment, but like, we have this incredible view outside. The dogs love it. It's very nice. Obviously, every apartment has like their flaws, but overall, this is like exactly what both of us want. And we are going to make it everything that we want and we cannot wait. We have all these hopes and aspirations and we're really excited and we're going to decorate and kind of like figure it out. But everything that we did and everything that we're doing, we are taking our sweet time doing it. And there's moments where I want to rush the moving process, let's be real. But like overall, when it comes to our relationship, there was nothing rushed. Everything was based off of how we were feeling, and I think that's the best way for anything to evolve and happen. Um, so if I were to break it down for y'all and say that's how you raise your standards, that's it. You come up with your non-negotiables, you let go of the past, whatever it is. You stick to your non-negotiables. You think about your higher self and what they want, your higher self. Um, you're not afraid to lose people. You're not afraid to lose whatever it is when you're chasing after what you want. And you also just take your time. You let things happen naturally. And the one thing I do want to say about like chasing your goals and dreams, whether it be career, relationship, personal, whatever it is, there has got to be a fine balance between masculine and feminine energy. There is a fine balance between masculine energy being going out there and getting what you want and feminine energy and kind of letting it flow to you and feeling that intuition of what it is. So there's that fine balance of getting what you want and letting it come to you. And I think the thing is you have to chase your dream and want it and work towards it, but to a certain extent. You also have to let it take time, feel your heart, your intuition. Does it make you happy? Is it what you truly want? You know, you have to find that balance, and that is how you're going to succeed. This episode is now an hour and a half long. I thank you guys so much for listening. I love you guys, double heart today, so much. And if you have listened till now, I hope that you loved this episode. I hope that you share it with your friends, family, coworkers, whoever you want. But I thank you for like going on this journey with me because I talk y'all's ears off about personal stuff, but I just like vibing with y'all and I like this platform and I want to keep it going. With that being said, I'm supposed to get a laptop within 14 days, and I have no idea if that's going to happen. I'm going to try my best to keep vlogging and podcasting. It seems to be going okay, but I cannot guarantee with my computer issues that it'll continuously happen. But if I do happen to miss a week, whether it be vlogging or podcasting, I will make like an announcement on here, on YouTube, Spotify, Apple. Like I'll make a little message or something somehow, and on my social medias as well. So I do apologize, but I thank you guys for like sticking with me through listening, vibing with me, watching the video if you guys are doing Spotify or YouTube. Um, this is a journey that I'm so happy and so thankful to be here with y'all. So thank you for like following my platform, for watching my platform, for listening and vibing with me. Like, this is amazing. I just, I don't know. I want to take a moment to like be appreciative and thankful because I feel like I haven't been doing that lately. And I love you guys so much, and I will hopefully see you next week. I'm going to try my hardest to do an episode for next week, even if I don't have my new laptop yet. But yeah, I love you, and I will see you next time on Many Mistakes Ago podcast.